What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist here with
Gersh1!
And today we're back to answer more questions from you guys in another installment of For the Greater.
This is a video series where we answer the questions left by you, the viewer. If you have a question for us, comment down below. Put a question in front of your question because we get those questions first. There's what Lucas de Arujo Marquez did. He says, who would survive better? A Unification War Space Marine on the current setting, or a current setting Space Marine on the Unification War setting? I heard the UW were even crazier than the 41st millennium. Unification War Space Marines. I think you mean like Thunder Warriors, right?
I would assume so, because if not, then the only Legion that was out during the Unification Wars was the first Legion, the Black...
The Dark Angels.
Dark Angels, yeah.
Yep.
I was going to say Black Templars, but no, it's the Dark Angels.
Yeah. So, we'll take it right now as Thunder Warriors then.
Yeah.
I guess it's interesting because, normally we think, who's stronger? Thunder Warriors or Space Marines, and obviously, the Space Marines would outsmart a Thunder Warrior, and most of the time, the Space Marines would win.
Yeah.
Most of the time. Not all the time.
Right.
But
the Thunder Warrior, you got to think of it this way. He's a brute. He's like if you're looking at it as an MMA type thing, they're going to be mostly trying to scrap with you, not really focused on taking damage, but just dishing damage. Whereas a Space Marine, they're more well-rounded. They got forms that they practice and whatnot. So it's like a martial artist against a street fighter. Who would win?
Yeah.
But at the same time, the martial artist is just well-rounded, where the street fighter is very strong, bulky, big, that type of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, we saw what happened with Kimbo Slice, right?
Yeah.
Other than the whole heart attack thing, because he died of a heart attack. Right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, the dude was a monster in all these street fights, and he goes to the UFC and he gets pushed around.
Yeah. He gets got because people there's a level of comfort with being within the octagon, and for the Space Marines it would be within being in a battle where the tactics can change. Whereas with the Thunder Warriors, their tactics was like you said, it was just straight to violence and melee and some shooting.
It's who cares if I get stabbed and shot? As long as I get to you, I know you're getting got.
Yeah. The interesting thing that you kind of throw into this question though is a Thunder Warrior right now in the current millennium.
Yes.
So because the current millennium, the Cicatrix Maledictum basically split the Imperium up, and it seems like there's more chaos. So there's more of Xeno threats and chaos threats or demon threats.
Yeah.
I think the Thunder Warriors would do well, but I still think that the Space Marines, that tactical genius or that flexibility that they have, would beat the Thunder Warriors.
Now, I have two caveats to this. Say you have a Thunder Warrior now, but they have the weapons, the war gear given to them of this era. Do you think they'd still be, they do even better?
They'll do better than the regular Unification War era type of war gear. Kind of, because it's difficult when you read when you read about the past and present of 40K.
Yeah.
Because the past is actually better. So that technology would have probably been more understood, and they knew how to use it, whereas now it's more of just praying to things and things like that.
Yeah.
Not that it's completely that, especially for Space Marines, but so I don't really know. I think I want to say that they would do better with late or early or this tech back then, but I'm not really sure.
Yeah. And then the second little caveat is, what if a Thunder Warrior was able to undergo the primarisation process? That
would change everything though, because then that means that remember, Thunder Warriors are adults, and they went through gene enhancement. They didn't go through the indoctrination and all that kind of stuff. You still have to go through that to become a Primaris Marine. So most Thunder Warriors would die,
right?
But the ones that would survive, from what we saw during the Horus Heresy and the Great Crusade, when you take an adult and make him go through the process of becoming a Primaris or becoming a Space Marine, usually it doesn't.
No.
It's not good. They go a little crazy.
Right. As in, case in point with Luther and the Dark Angels.
Yeah. So it's one of those, he'll be stronger, way stronger than, I'll probably compare him to, a Carcharodon, because you know how they're supposed to be huge.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he would be sane.
Yeah, it'd be like, we were talking about Kimbo Slice, it'd be like the Brock Lesnar.
Yeah. That guy is weird.
Yeah.
Freaking Brock Lesnar. Also, since we're talking about that, did you know Bad Bunny was in the Royal Rumble?
What the heck was he doing there?
Fighting, I guess.
I mean, why not? Sure. Sure. But yeah, let us know if you guys agree. Do you guys disagree? Do you think Thunder Warriors should have been the way instead of, taking them out and going to Space Marines?
Mm-hmm.
But that would be heresy because you're going against the Emperor's wishes.
Yep.
And you do not do that.
Never, ever. Next question.
This one's by Miguel Perez. What do you guys think about a custody apothecary? We know they exist in the books, but why haven't they piped up in minis?
Because it's just the process of putting stuff out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's taking them forever to fluff up these armies that should be fluffed up.
Yeah, I don't think they want to put all their eggs in one basket all at once, which is why we haven't heard about, like, the Silent King, certain Catan. You don't get the whole Sisters of Silence army fleshed out, because, again, they're going to save that for in the future so they could keep the business going.
Yeah.
So chances are we'll probably see an apothecary, more tanks, more vehicles, more named characters for them, just at a later date.
Also, the apothecary for the Space Marines rarely ever gets played.
At one point, they were meta.
Well,
because it was like they could bring back a fallen unit, and it's like, oh, this guy has 4 wounds. Bloop.
Well, that's kind of like the Pain Boy then.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just like it's. I guess it's one of those, like, it's a special character.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
This next question is a really long one. Just one. He asks, in the Greater WAAAGH released on December 8th, 2021. I wish I can go back to that era, that time.
2 months ago?
Yeah. No, it's 22. Yeah, 2 months ago. Yeah, I would go 2 months ago. Okay, so someone asked why Lehman Russ is always beating up his brothers. Your answer was Lehman was in the embodiment of primal instinctual rage aggression, as opposed to Angron, who is more of the Emperor's embodiment of destruction and fighting. Is that necessarily true? Angron and his legions were empaths, destroyed by Angron's anger towards the Emperor, as well as the Butcher's nails, not to mention chaos. Becoming what they are now. Okay, originally, wouldn't they have been the embodiment of compassion, honor, humanity instead? Or humility? No, yeah, humanity. Illustrated by Angron's desire to have died with his people on Nuceria. Also, what traits do the other Primarchs exhibit? That's a long one. And you're right. And the reason that you're right is because of that's an embodiment of the Blood God.
Mm-hmm.
So Khorne, everybody thinks of like the Blood God, God of Rage, all that kind of stuff.
Skulls for the Skull Throne, blood for the Blood God, that kind of thing.
But it's still honor.
Yeah.
Like, honor is a big part of Khorne, and I think that is like reflected onto Angron and his story. Because you're right, yeah. It is about honor, fighting with your gladiators. He's basically like World War Hulk, right?
Essentially, yeah. Rage, but like somewhat controlled.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think with him, it illustrates the downfall, or the purpose of him like being seen now as just a ball of rage. Mm-hmm. It illustrates the downfall of that honor.
Yes.
Whereas you don't have that with Lehman Russ. Because like Lehman Russ is not really, like, he wasn't really too much about honor.
No, he sucker punched the lion when they were wrestling.
Yeah.
You don't punch people when you're wrestling. You're all oiled up and sweaty with the boys.
Yeah. So it's weird. And then when you go into each individual, I don't think there's like a list of like the Dark Angel or the like Sanguinius is this, Rogaldorn is this. But it's like a broad kind of like spectrum of it's something that they embody within war.
Right.
Some of them are easier, like Corvus Corax, sneaky. But yeah.
Yeah. And then the whole thing with like the Emperor creating them. I mean, I think that's where a lot of people get that connotation from, where it's like the Emperor created them to be exactly this. So it's like, as a father like having a son, it's like you want to see your own ideals and goals and thoughts and stuff like that pushed onto them to keep your I guess, legacy or lineage going. So it's kind of like a passing down of the torch. I guess that's where people kind of get that connotation, where like the Emperor created him to be exactly this.
Yep.
So, perhaps.
Next question.
This one's by AK. Why don't you guys praise the Omnissiah more often?
We should, because we keep having, like, issues with, like, the camera, YouTube.
Yeah.
We need to pray to these pieces of technology more, and maybe they will stop breaking down.
I mean, I use my toaster pretty often, so maybe I should just, like...
stick a fork in it while it's on.
Yeah, butter it up.
Next question comes from Zoe Glass.
Go ahead, yeah.
I got a hair in my mouth. Have you guys ever watched Event Horizon, and if so, do you think that it is what it was like when the first warp jump went through without a Geller field?
Yeah, we've talked about Event Horizon before multiple times. I probably talked about it like 3 times. And yeah, essentially the director wanted to make a Warhammer 40K prequel movie, but obviously GW doesn't give out their IP like that, so they're like, no. And he's like, well, I kind of already did. So basically it's a 40K story that's not 40K.
Yeah, heavily inspired is what they say.
Yeah, and it's basically a ship going into the warp with no Geller field, so obviously demons and like horror stuff happens, and it gets pretty awesome, pretty gnarly.
The best part about that movie is that it's a lingering effect. So like they go into the warp, they exit, but it's still there.
Yes.
Like it possessed the ship basically. Oh, spoiler alert.
Yeah, and surprisingly, it's got some pretty like well-known actors. Like Lawrence Fishburne is in it, the guy from Jurassic Park.
Yeah, GW did that a lot in the past, where somebody would be like, we want to create this awesome thing. Can you let us borrow your IP because we're basing it off of your world? They're like, no, and they go, okay, we're gonna do it anyway.
Yeah, Warcraft.
Yeah,
Judge Dredd.
Yep, and now it's like, well, World of War or.
Yeah.
StarCraft is probably one of the most popular. Yeah.
And Judge Dredd happened first, I believe, and then GW's the one that took from them. Yeah. Dune, another one.
Yeah, but then GW comes out with Tyranids ripping off of Alien,
yeah,
or Xenomorph,
Starship Troopers.
Yeah, but no, it's okay that they did it.
Yeah.
Next question comes from J-Day. Is there still hope for the Eldar as a race to survive into the upcoming millennia, or at least reaching a point of stability that their race population, or are they destined to die off? I think they're good.
Yeah.
They just summoned a freaking god.
They have a lot going on with gods and theism in their lore. Like, you've got Isha that's captured by Nurgle. They've essentially created Slaanesh. They've got the Avatar of Iniad. Segura is still alive and doing stuff, or hiding, however you want to see it. And then we just got Kane, who on the tabletop is a beast. He can deal 56 wounds a turn. Did you hear about that?
No.
56 wounds a turn.
Damn.
Yeah. And you guys were complaining about the railgun on the hammerhead.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But it's a 56 to 1 thing, or it's spread out?
To one thing.
Oh, so
well, I mean, I guess you could like split your attacks, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's D6 plus 2 damage, strength 14, like minus 5 AP.
Too much.
Yeah. But yeah, so they're sitting good, at least tabletop wise right now. They've got a whole bunch of new releases coming out. But yeah, like lore wise, they're a dying race, but they've been a dying race for millennia.
Yeah.
And it's like with all the craft worlds they've got out. With the summoning of like the Avatar of Iniad and whatnot, the god of rebirth or reincarnation. They're getting together under the banner of the Inari, so they're doing okay. They're doing pretty good. They're obviously not going to be up to the height of their golden age, but they're not about to die out just yet.
And I think that's the key. Like, the reason that they're considered a dying race is because they're not to the height of the height of their power.
Right.
But yeah, I would argue that they're more stable now than really dying, because they still have the craft worlds. They have the control of the webway. Like, the only thing that I see them that would make them like unstable is if the Imperium actually did start controlling the webway or got access to the webway. Because then it's like, well, that's our thing, and now humans are messing it up.
The worst thing they got in the webway is the Thousand Sons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say Chick-fil-A.
They do.
Chick-fil-A's are. It's confusing because I feel like it's not satisfactory. Chick-fil-A is like the sandwiches, but you still go to it because you want the waffle fries.
I can see that. I've only gone there like 3 times.
It's weird.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm just taken aback by how kind they have to be.
They have to be.
They
have to be.
Yeah.
And that's like a good reflection on, because they're supposed to be a Christian thing. It's like, you have to be that way. You don't want to be that way. It's not sincerity.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
That's why you go to Popeyes. They don't care about you.
Nope, they spit in your food.
Yeah. Oh, you ordered chicken? Wait for 45 minutes.
Yeah. And then complain when it was 50? You're going to wait 2 hours now.
Mage Army says, who is the best augur or fortune teller in the galaxy? Eldrad, Othen, or Orikin the Diviner? They are probably the most reliable, but the strongest one is maybe Kairos Fateweaver. How do they compare to the Emperor or Tzeentch himself?
Well, Tzeentch is a god, so Tzeentch, or the Fateweaver, is part of Tzeentch because he's a demon.
Right. If you didn't know, demons, lesser demons, or greater demons come from the demon god himself.
Yeah, it's like an embodiment, kind of like an avatar.
Yes. Yes.
So take Tzeentch out then.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I would say like the Emperor, but he's kind of like godly now. Because apparently he did have like future vision or foresight or whatever, so he knew what was going to happen, and that's why he did the things he did. But maybe he didn't see like chaos coming in, so I don't know about all that. Orikin the Diviner is the Necron chronomancer, and apparently he can go forwards and back in time. But I think the caveat is that no matter what he does, he can't change fate.
Yeah.
So it's like, this tomb world is going to get exploded by like the Space Marine fleet. And he goes back in time to try and divert the Space Marine fleet, but one way or another, the world still blows up.
Yeah.
Who's the last one? Eldrad. Didn't he die?
He did. Well, supposedly.
Right. He died trying to or trying to create the avatar of Iniad prematurely. And that happened with like he's like fighting on some moon against the Death Watch. And obviously the Death Watch has just gotten their new models and codex, so obviously they had to win. He was the unfortunate one to either die or lose or whatever. So,
but the thing about named characters with models is that they don't really ever die.
Right.
They'll be back. Also, like the whole concept of the Spirit Stone exists. So it is Spirit Stone, right?
Yeah.
What the Eldar have.
Yeah.
So it's probably like it's in there.
Out of those 3, who would you say is the strongest?
The Necron. Just because, like, I feel like... Well, I don't know if he's the strongest, but, like, it just makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Because it's, like, that whole, like, fixed timeline type of thing. Like, so he's not creating multiple...
Yeah, possibilities or anything. Yeah.
But you?
I would say the same thing. I was going to say Kairos, but it's like... it's kind of like he's piggybacking off of Tzeentch. So I feel like that's kind of like cheating. So we'll go with that.
Next question.
This one's by Nikoe, or Nico Sigma, whatever that sign is. Out of all the minor Xenos that are mentioned in the lore, which ones would you guys like to see join a main faction? Personally, I'd like to see Zotes as part of the Tau Auxiliaries.
That would be cool because they're huge.
Yeah. But I thought they were, like, well, at least all the way deep in the lore, they were part of the Tyranids.
They used to be, yeah.
They were like the Tyranids' mouthpiece.
I think what happened was that the Tyranids arrived, in my headcanon, and they found this race that could be used for the Tyranids' help, basically. Like you said, translators. So then that means that there's still some wild ones that haven't become part of the Tyranids, so, like, the Tau would naturally, like, try to control them.
Yeah.
And then if the Tau could not control them, but make them part of the Empire, and they have that connection with the Tyranids where they can communicate with the Tyranids, then bam. Even though I don't think that's even a thing anymore.
Yeah. Because I think that takes apart the whole primal and like instinctual apex predator thing of the Tyranids.
Yeah.
And it makes them more like StarCraft's Zerg. Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
But I've always liked the concept of the... Ooh, I forgot what they're... The little trash men that control time.
Nikasar?
No. Those are the polar bears.
Yeah.
Right? I forgot what they're called. Damn.
Yeah, but I know what you're talking about.
Crud.
Yeah, there you go.
They're like little trash dudes, and they like, if you get near them, they affect time, so they could like aid you. And if enough swarms of these Crud arrive, then they could like coolly like destroy entire like civilizations and stuff.
Yeah, what's cool about that is that it transfers over to game mechanics pretty well, right? I feel like it could, because it's just basically like rerolls.
Yeah.
It's like the HRUD were there, which means that you can reroll ones.
Or you could do like some awesome stratagems where like if you're in close combat against a HRUD, you could just end the turn. You don't get to attack back or something like that.
That would be cool, yeah.
Yeah.
That'd make them freaking
really
OP.
Yeah. Maybe not just end the turn, but something like that.
But that's what's fun. Like I think creating that or creating some type of tabletop thing for that would be awesome. That's actually a really good question. Or a really good answer. We should pitch it to GW.
And they'll be like, sign this non-disclosure agreement.
Non-discrimination.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
But yeah, those were the questions for today. If you guys have more questions for us, please comment down below. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us and listening, and we'll talk tomorrow.
Yeah, this has been The Sound Alchemist.
Gersh1.
We are out.